Musou Jikiden Eishin Ryu Iaijutsu, often simply called Eishin Ryu, is Japan's oldest and most popular style of Iaido. Iaido, or Iaijutsu, is the 450-year-old art of samurai swordsmanship in face-to-face combat and is characterized by its quick-draw techniques. Musou Jikiden Eishin Ryu Iaijutsu, often simply called Eishin Ryu, is Japan's oldest and most popular style of Iaido. Iaido, or Iaijutsu, is the 450-year-old art of samurai swordsmanship in face-to-face combat and is characterized by its quick-draw techniques. The Nippon Kobudo Jikishinkai, headed by 20th successive Grandmaster Miura Shihan, is the organization dedicated to teaching and promoting this art. It is represented in America exclusively by the Nippon Kobudo Jikishinkai USA and worldwide by the Nippon Kobudo Jikishinkai International, both of which are chaired by Shimabukuro Shihan. This series by Panther Video is the first ever to present the complete Eishin Ryu system. To get the most benefit from this tape, we suggest that you first watch Volume 7, Interview with Master Shimabukuro, to familiarize yourself with the nomenclature of the sword and the history of the style. On this occasion, I wish to express my appreciation to Panther Video for making this video series available to introduce you to Musou Jikiden Eishin Ryu Iaijutsu. My name is Masayuki Shimabukuro. I have been training under the 20th Grandmaster of Eishin Ryu, Miura Shihan, for approximately 20 years. It is my hope that you will enjoy this tape and find it helpful in your training and improvement in Iaijutsu. Although Iaijutsu does not give names to its stances, many resemble those familiar to Karate-Do and other martial arts, such as Zenkutsudachi, front stance, Shikodachi, side stance, and Rei no Jirachi, or Hanmi, or Shizentai, natural stance. Regardless of the stance being used, basic posture is essential to Iaijutsu. The back must always be kept straight and the head held erect and pulled back so that the back of the head and the neck and the back are all in alignment, but without the chin being tucked in. To correctly grip the sword, the right hand must not touch the fuchigane, which is the metal fitting next to the tsuba. There should be a space the thickness of one finger between the hands. Hold the tsuka lightly and squeeze the hands inward, like wringing out a wet towel as you swing the sword. During Kiri-oroshi, the main downward cut, both arms should reach full extension when the blade reaches a 45-degree angle. From this point, the blade should swing downward in a natural arc. The curvature of the blade and this correct swing will allow the blade to naturally and almost effortlessly cut through the target. Nukitsuke, the initial drawing cut, begins by gripping the saya with the left hand, then the tsuka with the right hand. Then push forward against the tsuba with the left thumb to loosen the sword from its scabbard. Begin by drawing the tsukagashira, the end of the handle, directly toward the opponent's eyes. As the tip of the blade emerges, turn the blade horizontal so it swings across the opponent's eyes. Be sure the tip, or kisaki, is still angled inward at the completion of the draw. To raise the sword overhead, called furikaburi, bend your right wrist so the kisaki moves to your left ear, keeping the tip horizontal. Do not allow the tsuba to pass the center of your face. Raise the sword directly overhead, then grasp the tsuka with your left hand and perform kiri-oroshi. To perform omoryu chiburi, or blood removal, swing the sword to your right while twisting your wrist clockwise so the edge is forward by the time the tip is pointing directly to the right. Then raise the tsuka to your forehead with your fingers loose and tighten your grip sharply while swinging your hand down to snap the blade downward like shaking off a wet umbrella. Noto, resheathing the sword, begins by grasping the saya with its mouth inside your hand and creating a small opening between your thumb and forefinger. Swing the blade back and align it with the saya, then keep the blade level while pulling it straight forward until the tip drops through the opening in your hand, then pushing it straight into the saya. Don't pull the sword to one side or waggle it around. Pull it straight forward, then straight back, keeping it level, pulling the saya forward with the left hand while pushing the blade in with the right hand. Let's use the first waza to demonstrate these basics again. Start by breathing in, then out, in, then out. When the third breath is almost completely inhaled, begin the technique. Holding your breath until the end of the waza. Use this breathing method to cleanse your mind and body of impurities, and don't allow your opponent to see your breathing. Nukitsuke should begin slow and steadily accelerate to a fast finish, drawing the tsukagashira directly toward the opponent's eyes and making sure the kisaki points inward, not outward, but inward, back towards the opponent's eyes. Kiri-oroshi should end with the tsuba even with the front knee, not ahead or behind, not higher or lower, and the kisaki should be slightly lower than the tsuba when you finish. Chiburi should be a slow, smooth motion with the arm and the sword forming a continuous line and the kisaki pointing inward as you finish. Use zanshin to keep your mind focused intently upon your imaginary opponent until you are sure that he is beaten. Noto should be a large motion, moving both hands slowly together so that your knee touches the floor just as the tsuba touches your left hand. Hook your left thumb over the tsuba and move your right hand to the tsukagashira, then rise and return to your starting point. Etiquette and preparation are of almost equal importance to technique in iaijutsu, because the depth of a person's character is evident in the sincerity expressed in his etiquette. Hairei, bowing to the dojo shrine or founder's portrait, is performed by taking the sword in the right hand with the edge facing to the rear and bowing from a standing position. Torei is most respectful when performed kneeling. The kojiri is placed to the right front of the right knee with the tsukagashira angled back towards the face. Then the sword is lowered gently to the floor with the tsuba aligned with the left knee. The left hand is placed first, just ahead of the knees, followed by the right hand. Looking at the sword, bow forward without allowing the hips to raise up. Taito, inserting the sword at the belt, is done by placing the sword on its kojiri between the knees, running the left hand down the lower one-third of the saya, then guiding the kojiri into the obi. Move the right hand as little as possible and align the tsuba directly in front of the navel. Seizamae. Seizamae, sometimes called Seiza Shomen, is performed exactly as described in the preceding fundamentals. Nukitsuke, Furikaburi, Kirioroshi. A wet umbrella type Omori Ryu Chiburi, and Noto. As the sword is returned to the scabbard, lower toward the floor so that the left knee touches the floor at exactly the same time the tsuba touches the left hand. As the right hand is placed on the tsukagashira, rise to a standing position in iaigoshi, with the knees still bent and the body lowered, then step smoothly back to the original starting position. Seizamae once again at full speed. In Seizamae, there is one attacker directly to the front. As you sense his attack, use Nukitsuke to slash his eyes, finishing with a powerful Kirioroshi downward cut. The first cut blinds the opponent, rendering him incapable of defending against the Kirioroshi or downward cut. Waza number 2, Seiza Migi. Seizamigi is nearly identical to Seizamae, except it begins turned 90 degrees to the right. Pivot 90 degrees to the left while performing Nukitsuke, followed by Furikaburi and Kirioroshi, then an Omori-ryu wet umbrella type Chiburi, and No-to. Maintain Iaigoshi throughout the standing portions of this technique. Again, the knee should touch the floor at exactly the same time the tsuba touches the left hand. Rise to Iaigoshi and step smoothly back to the original starting position. Notice that the footwork during No-to in Seizamigi is the opposite or reverse of the footwork in Seizamae. Stepping back with the left foot instead of the right foot during No-to. Bunkai for Seizamigi is similar to that for Seizamae. In this case, the opponent attacks from your left. As you sense his movement, turn and use Nukitsuke to again slash his eyes, finishing with a downward Kirioroshi. Waza number 3, Seiza Hidari. This waza is the mirror image of Seizamigi, waza number 2, beginning turned 90 degrees to the left. A key point in Seiza Hidari and Seizamigi is making eye contact with your imaginary opponent as you begin to draw. Nukitsuke is performed with a 90-degree pivot to the right, followed by Furikaburi, Kirioroshi, and an Omori-ryu wet umbrella type Chiburi. From the end of the Chiburi to the beginning of No-to, be sure to maintain Iaigoshi, or a level body posture. As always, the right knee should touch the floor at exactly the same time that the tsuba touches the left hand at the completion of No-to. As you move back to your original starting position, always begin stepping back with the left foot. The footwork in Seiza Hidari is identical to the footwork in Seizamae. The bunkai for Seiza Hidari is also similar to that for Seiza Mai or Seiza Migi. In Seiza Hidari, the opponent attacks from your right. As you sense his movement, turn and use Nukitsuke to slash his eyes, then finish with Kiri-oroshi. Seiza Ushiro begins facing backward. As you finish inhaling your third breath, be sure to peek over your left shoulder to make eye contact while grasping the sword. Then Nukitsuke is performed with a 180-degree pivot to your left, followed by Furikaburi and Kiri-oroshi. Again, an O-Moriryu wet umbrella type Chiburi is used, rising to Iaigoshi. Drawing the left foot back, performing no-to, so that the left knee touches the floor at the same time the tsuba touches the left hand. Hook your thumb over the tsuba, right hand to the tsukagashira, rise to Iaigoshi, step back with the left foot to the original starting position. Bunkai for Seiza Ushiro involves an opponent attacking from the rear. As you sense the attack coming, turn and use Nukitsuke to slash the eyes, then finish with Kiri-oroshi. Yaegaki Omote. Yaegaki Omote begins facing straight ahead. After Nukitsuke, rise to Iaigoshi during Furikaburi and step forward with the left foot for Kiri-oroshi, followed by Eishin Ryu Chiburi. The second Nukitsuke is used to block downward in front of the right leg, followed by a second Kirioroshi. Omori-ryu wet umbrella type Chiburi. Stepping back with the right foot to perform Noto. Again, the right knee should touch the floor at the same time the tsuba touches the left hand. Right hand slides to the tsukagashira, then rise. Step back with the left foot to return to your original starting position. Eishin-ryu Chiburi is done by wrapping the little finger of the left hand around the tsuka for tension, then snapping the blade counterclockwise. In Yaegaki Omote, the opponent attacks from the front, but survives the first counterattack. As you begin Noto and are vulnerable, he attempts a surprise attack, attempting to cut the front leg, which is then blocked and followed by a second Kirioroshi. Yaegaki Ura is very similar to Yaegaki Omote. After the initial Nukitsuke, and fully rising Furikaburi and Kirioroshi, again the Eishin-ryu flicking type Chiburi is used, followed by Noto, sliding the left foot back. Then the second Nukitsuke slashes across the eyes, followed by Kirioroshi. And then an Omori-ryu wet umbrella type Chiburi, rising to Yaegoshi, stepping back with the right foot to perform Noto. Bunkai for Yaegaki Ura usually involves two opponents. After the first opponent is defeated and you are beginning no-to, a second opponent begins an attack. Ukinagashi begins turned 45 degrees to your right. Be sure to turn your head to the left to make eye contact while grasping the sword. A dripping type chiburi is used here, with the hand reversed before performing no-to. The body turns to the front as no-to is performed. The first stage of Nukitsuke during Ukinagashi is used to tempt the opponent into a premature attack, which is then blocked. The name Ukinagashi comes from the sliding type block that is used to throw the opponent off balance as he attempts his Kirioroshi attack. Footwork is a triangular pattern of left foot, right foot, and then both feet together. Kaishaku begins facing straight ahead. In this waza, Nukitsuke is begun with the right foot taking a step forward, then taking a step back into a wide balanced stance while lowering the blade behind the head until the kisaki is at eye level. Kirioroshi is performed at a 45-degree angle to the left, using the left hand to stop the blade short. Chiburi and no-to are identical to those in ukinagashi. In kaishaku, you are not being threatened by an opponent, so it is important to move smoothly, quietly, and with a calm spirit throughout the waza. In kaishaku, you are assisting a samurai who is committing suicide by seppuku. It is important to slowly and silently draw the sword so as not to disturb his concentration. When he pulls the dagger upward, completing seppuku, you quickly end his suffering. By using your left hand to stop the blade, the spinal cord is severed, but leaves enough intact flesh to prevent his head from bouncing away disgracefully. Waza number 8, tsukekomi, begins facing straight ahead. Nukitsuke starts with a step forward, but the right foot is drawn quickly back as it is completed with an overhead block immediately followed by a shuffling forward kirioroshi, which stops at full extension of the hands, then a second shuffling forward kirioroshi, which is completed. Stepping back with the right foot, the sword is raised to jodan no kamae before kneeling down with the sword held to protect the front. The grip of the right hand is reversed, and chiburi is performed as a wiping motion across the left hand, which then guides the sword into position for no-to. Tsukekomi uses the first stage of Nukitsuke to lure the opponent into a premature attack. As the opponent attacks, an ukenagashi type block off-balances him, but the first cut is not sufficient to defeat him, so a second cut is necessary. This waza could also be used against two opponents, one behind the other. Waza number 9, Tsukikage, begins facing 45 degrees to the left. As you take the third breath, be sure to turn your head slightly to the right to make eye contact while your hands grip the sword. Then perform Nukitsuke at a 45-degree angle upward while pivoting 45 degrees to the right. In Tsukikage, you do not lower yourself to one knee while performing Noto. Tsukikage gets its name, which means moon shadow, from the crescent-shaped swing of the sword during Nukitsuke. In Tsukikage, the opponent has already drawn his sword and is beginning his attack. Nukitsuke is used to cut the opponent's arms as he is attempting his attack. Then he is pushed back and off balance just before performing Furikaburi and Kirioroshi. Waza number 10, Oikaze, begins facing straight ahead and is performed entirely in a standing position. Rise up on tiptoe as you grasp the sword, and begin nukitsuke as you run forward in tiny steps. Complete the nukitsuke on a full step with the right foot, then step forward doing furikaburi, and finish with kirioroshi, again right foot forward, followed by an O-Mori-ryu wet umbrella type chiburi, and no-to in a standing position. The bunkai for oikaze involves a condition called joiuchi, which means instructions from above. In this case, you have been instructed to execute an enemy who flees from you, so you must run after him and use nukitsuke to slow him down so that you can finish with kirioroshi. Oikaze means chasing the wind, and the many steps represent a long chase at full stride. Waza number 11, Nukiuchi, begins facing straight ahead. Rise up high on your knees as you draw the sword straight overhead, combining nukitsuke and furikaburi into one movement. Then spread your knees for balance during kirioroshi, followed by an eishin-ryu flick-type chiburi. Settle back onto your heels during no-to. Then draw your knees together. Place the feet flat and lower into seiza position once again. As you rise, it's important that the feet not remain flat, but that you come up on the balls of the feet for better balance. Bunkai for Nukiuchi is another case of joiuchi, or instructions from above. In this case, you have been instructed to execute an enemy, and as he bows, you draw and quickly perform the execution with kirioroshi. A matter of vital importance to the art of iaijutsu is correct cutting technique. It is cutting technique which sets iaijutsu apart from other sword-fighting arts, such as kendo, which develop skill and speed at striking with the blade, but do not train the practitioner to actually cut with a live sword. Although proper cutting technique is not particularly difficult, Since the samurai sword was carefully designed and crafted for that very purpose, it does require a thorough understanding of the mechanics of cutting and sufficient practice to become a matter of habit. Essentially, if you hold and swing the sword correctly, its weight, curvature, and balance will cause it to slice almost effortlessly through the target. In a manner of speaking, this begins from the ground up, with proper stance and distribution and transfer of weight throughout the swinging process. Follow-through is accomplished with hip rotation rather than arm and shoulder strength. A proper grip, squeezing the hands inward like wringing out a wet towel, tsuka no nigiri kata, minimizes any side-to-side motion of the blade, which would not permit it to travel straight. Hasuji o tosu, moving both hands along the same path, also eliminates wiggle or twisting of the blade while swinging. Reaching full extension of the arms and wrists before the blade contacts the target increases the centripetal force, or enshin ryoku, of the blade and allows the cutting edge to draw naturally across the target. It has been my pleasure to present this video series on Musou Jikiden Eishin-ryu Iaijutsu, and I hope it has improved your understanding and your appreciation for the art of Iaido. I sincerely thank you for giving me this opportunity.